You want to know what's scary? Taking children away from a very capable parent and a mother in this case. This is a mother's horror story. And as a mother myself, I know that I developed my own identity by bearing children and helping them grow and helping them learn, helping them understand the way the world works. And without my children, I know I could lose my will to live. And so, if this story resonates with you, please be willing to help Danielle Harrison so she can fight for her custody of her children. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, I got DJ Mike in the building right now. Okay. Yeah, I'm still here. I'm still here, I'm still here, I'm still here, I'm still here. Hey!
The pseudo seizure, and because I wasn't able to find an apartment for us to live in, he decided to drop me and my children off at my mother's house while he went and stayed elsewhere. The moment that I brought up the fact that I would have to file for state assistance, all of the sudden, all these things started popping up. Now, just to go back a little bit, my daughter Gabrielle, I will say her name, Gabrielle, she was born with Chiari brain malformation. And for those that don't know, Chiari brain malformation basically affects the brain. It affects your speech. Basically it's when the end of the brain, the spinal, is pushing down. And we didn't know that she had that condition, but she had been exhibiting symptoms where she was passing out a lot, or she would stop breathing in her sleep. We had to take her to the hospital. They put her on a heart monitor and things like that. It started progressing even more. And this was during our split. And I wound up having to take her to the hospital probably 3 or 4 times after we split.
Wow.
The ER basically told me they didn't know what was wrong with my daughter. The last time I took her, they finally decided to admit her. They had to run tests on her where they had to put her to sleep with propofol, things like that. And that's when they found out that she had Chiari brain malformation type 1. Now, when they found that out, basically all of the symptoms I was explaining to them aligned with her disease.
Wow.
The thing was, they wanted me to just take her home. Now, anybody that's a mother and they're seeing their child go through this, and then you hear your child has a whole disease, and they're being put through, speech therapy, swallow therapy, pureed foods, all of that, wearing a heart monitor, you're not going to want to just take your child home.
You're not a doctor, you're not a nurse. We don't know what we be doing for real.
Exactly. Exactly. And the one thing that I was scared of was I'm going to take her home and something's going to happen. So I asked for a second opinion, and unbeknownst to me, when I asked for the second opinion, they called my ex-husband we weren't divorced at the time, but my ex-husband, they called him, and he basically told them that he had concerns with me taking my daughter to the hospital. And they transferred me to the second hospital. No one said anything to me about what was going to happen, what was going on, any of that.
Right.
And come to find out, they wound up contacting CPS. So I went from a hospital in Grand Rapids, Michigan, all the way to Ann Arbor, Michigan, which is about maybe an hour and a half to 2 hours away. When I get there, I noticed that the nurses were acting a little different and things like that. And probably our third day there, I remember, I think I went to get something to eat, something, and I came back in the room and my daughter wasn't there.
Mm.
It was two people standing there. And they told me that they were taking my daughter because there was a report of Munchausen's by proxy.
Mm.
I don't know if a lot of people even know about Munchausen's by proxy, but it's actually one of those diseases where a lot of doctors and a lot of scientists, they don't back it because Munchausen's by proxy, it doesn't make sense.
Mm.
Munchausen's by proxy basically means when you're taking your child to the ER excessively for attention.
Oh, okay.
So the problem
So
was,
really quick, because I know CPS does get involved if they see like multiple times that your child's going to the doctor, hospital.
yeah,
They're
they
probably thinking,
do.
what are you doing to try to cover it up? Yeah.
Correct. But the problem was she had already had a heart monitor home.
Mm.
She had already had a diagnosis from the hospital, so there was no way that they could even remotely say that it was Munchausen's by proxy. But because I fought so hard for a second opinion, that's exactly what they did.
Mm.
Um, so I remember having to leave the hospital without my daughter. They gave me a Greyhound ticket to get home.
Wow.
They made me see a psychiatrist, a state psychiatrist that was hired by the courts.
Mm-hmm.
They made me go through parenting classes. They made me do a lot of things. Now, the psychiatrist's finding was I did not have Munchausen's by proxy because in order for me to have Munchausen's by proxy, I would have had to make up a disease.
Right.
Problem was she had the disease and everything I reported matched.
Right.
So right after the doctor cleared me, they were supposed to just hand my daughters back to me. But
Mm-hmm.
what happened was CPS went to my ex-husband and let him know, well, they didn't find Munchausen's by proxy. And he took that time to go file for divorce.
Mm.
So it made it extremely hard for me to get them back.
Yeah.
That's how I got in this lovely situation.
Wow. Okay. So basically, while you was going through your divorce, you're young. This is your youngest daughter.
Yeah, this is my second oldest daughter.
Second oldest daughter. Okay. And they were found that they have a disease or an infection or whatever the case may be. I hate saying disease. It just sounds horrible. But
It does.
yeah, but to alleviate that, so they have some type of infection or some type of serious illness with her, and you're trying to identify that and find that out, and then he took that information and those reports behind your back and was just like, let me take this to court and try to get custody of my children because she crazy, and you can see it right here. You can see proof that
Correct.
Okay, so I think it's funny that happened to you because that same thing happened to me. And this is not about me, but really quick, my child's father, I was brutally beaten by the Tampa Police Department in 2019.
Oh my goodness.
Yes, and I reached out to him and said, hey, do you have a lawyer? And he was like, let me see the police report. He took the police report because it said resisting arrest, but it said without violence. And he took that and got a lawyer and was able to get joint majority custody of my daughter.
Oh my goodness.
Day. So I feel you on that. And spirits, if you are listening, if there's anyone out there that's going through the same thing, please speak up and don't be afraid to let us know your situation and how you handle it as well. So yes. So now your ex-husband is living in Michigan.
Correct.
So now he's filing for full custody or whatever for the two children that you have with him. And at the time, you're still in Michigan as well, and you're getting ready to move to Tampa?
So, what happened was when we divorced, we had joint custody. I was living down here in Tampa. He was okay with it. He texted me one day and said that he wanted to send them down here to live for good. Because he couldn't handle taking care of them.
Yeah, honestly, I'm gonna just be honest. No man should be taking care of daughters period,
No,
unless the mother is on drugs. That shit is really weird and very sus. If any man
absolutely.
wants their daughters without the mother being passed away or on drugs, that shit is strange and red flags should be going up already.
Absolutely. So
But
we had joint custody. Then he asked me if they could come live with me. But because he found out that I was dating my now current husband, he got spiteful. He started calling me and just going off on me, telling me he wasn't going to send them down.
mm,
Um, I wound up going up to Michigan for my daughters to get my daughters and everything. And what he did was he got upset with me because he wanted me to let him sleep with me. He wanted me to let him sleep in my hotel room.
mm,
And because I denied him that because he had already had some girl that he was messing around with,
right.
um, he flat out put me out of his car. He stole my $600 camera.
Wow.
He tried to have me go on, basically pick up my camera from his grandmother's house, knowing that I couldn't be on her property because she basically said the next time I came on her property, she was going to call the police.
Mm,
Um, so basically, we were back and forth with the girls and things like that. And it wasn't until 2018, I want to say April,
mm-hmm.
I found out that my daughters were having issues with their cousin where he was pulling down his pants and showing his genitals, and he was asking them to suck his pee-pee for some candy and things like that. Now, when I heard that, the
Yeah.
first call was to dad. And
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, what's going on here? And the only thing he would say to me is, it's none of your business and don't worry about it. He wound up calling my daughter and yelling at her and telling her she had no business telling me that whatever goes on in their house it stays in their house. He basically quieted her voice.
Mm-hmm.
And so she kept telling him, well, dad, I'm trying to tell you that it's still happening. It's still happening. But he wasn't listening to her. So around June, she came when it was for my son's birthday. She just wasn't herself.
Yeah.
I noticed she didn't want me to wash her up.
Yeah.
She would, because usually I would wash them up and get them ready for bed or for the day. But I noticed that she did not want to be touched.
Mm-hmm.
And I let it go. But then she wound up opening up to my mom because they have a very strong relationship with my mother. And my mother made her come to my room and she said, you need to talk to her. She said to me, you need to talk to her. You need to listen to her.
Mm-hmm.
And my daughter told me, she said, well, mommy, she said there was a time, this is my daughter, Layla. She said, Gabrielle was taken in the bathroom by our cousin Juju, and he pulled her pants down and he pulled his pants down and he was rubbing himself against her and he was fondling her and she was crying. And I said, well, where were the adults? She said, well, everybody was downstairs asleep. Well, where's your grandmother? Oh, she was at work.
Mm-hmm.
You guys had no one to watch you?
Oh.
And she said, yes. So when that happened, I got heated.
Yeah.
I contacted CPS of Tampa. They contacted the Tampa Police Department. They came to our house and spoke with them.
Mm-hmm.
And they basically told me, you have a right to withhold custody from him because this is
Mm-hmm.
something serious.
Okay.
So next thing I know, I was talking about it on Facebook and a few of my friends inboxed me and they said, hey, they said, is so-and-so his dad? Is Jules Sutton Juju's dad? I said, yeah. They said, well, you need to talk to this girl, Leah McTheany,
Mm-hmm.
because her son was actually bribed with candy to suck on his penis.
Wow.
And when I heard about that, I inboxed her. She confirmed it. And something in me just, that motherly instinct when it's like, yes, something's wrong. I called my daughter into the kitchen. I was washing dishes and I just started it off as a regular conversation. And I asked her, I said, well, baby, I said, is there anything else you need to tell mommy?
Yeah.
We just stopped. And I said to her, I said, you're not in trouble. I said, I just need to know, has anyone else touched you inappropriately? And she said, yes. And I said, well, who? She said, Uncle Jewel. And I said, what do you mean? And she said, he touched me on my vagina. And I asked her, I said, well, and I felt bad for doing this, especially as a survivor of being molested and things like that. I felt bad having to sit here and ask my daughter, are you sure? Or do you know the difference? But I had to ask because I didn't want to press charges against somebody and it wasn't true.
Right.
I asked her, do you know the difference between playing and on purpose? And she said, Mom, he wasn't playing because every time I would move away from him, he would move closer to me. And she said at one point she got off the couch and she was trying to get away from him and he followed her. The only thing that saved her from it going further was the fact her grandmother finally came in and she didn't know what was going on, but she finally came in and he stopped. And when I heard that, I contacted Tampa Police Department again. I had to take her to therapy at the Crisis Center of Tampa Bay. I had to talk with her father and I told him, I said, listen, I said, I'm going to press charges against your brother. I said, because this is not okay. He wasn't willing to press charges. He wanted to talk to my daughter because he thought I was just making it up to make him look bad. And I said to him, I don't have a reason to make you look bad, but the fact that this is happening to our daughter, it's not okay.
Right.
So basically, the Tampa police had to hand it over to Ottawa County. Ottawa County CPS automatically said that my daughters would be staying with me, not to worry about it, but they have to have a police officer escort them to the house and also do their own investigation. Now, this extremely racist cop, and I have recordings from him, he basically made it a point to tell me without even investigating. He told me, I'm not going to take them from him. I feel like I can scare him into not taking the kids back over to the grandmother's house. One moment that I realized, okay, so I guess he's just going to continue to let my daughters be put in bad positions.
Right.
I filed papers in courts to keep them. At some point, my ex-husband decided to lie. He came down to try to pick them up. He went straight to the police station. He lied to the police officers and said that he came to my home and that I was refusing to open the door. And he had never stepped foot at my doorstep.
Wow.
Luckily, the police already knew about the situation. So when they came to me, they were like, well, it's nothing we can do, but we just want to see the girls and see how they are and what they want to do.
Right.
Well, the girls made it very clear that they felt safe with me. They wanted to stay with me. So they pretty much sent him home packing. He went to the courts in Michigan. And at the time, I was about 6 months pregnant with my youngest daughter. And I had a complicated pregnancy with her because I had hyperemesis. And I kept having Braxton Hicks contractions that were really bad. And I actually wound up having her 6 weeks early.
Wow. So you went through all of this while you were still pregnant?
Yes. Yep. all the stress from it, I literally wound up going into labor when I was about 7.5 months.
Wow, that's insane.
Yeah. So he went to Michigan. He told the courts that I just flat out wasn't handing them over to him. He didn't know why. None of that. Thankfully I have a mother who sat on the NAACP board and the FIA board, and she knows her laws to an extent. And she showed up in court for me and had to give the judge my doctor's papers and explain to the judge, well, she's withholding custody because there's a criminal sexual conduct case going on, kind of thing. And when she let them know that, then they set a court date. I couldn't show up to the court date because my doctor didn't advise that I could travel that far.
Right. 'Cause you're pregnant.
Right. So at the end of the day, because he was able to hire an attorney and it was my word against his, they made a judgment against me. I had every intent on going back to Michigan to settle the matter, but again, I just had a baby.
Right.
They wound up putting a felony warrant out for my arrest for parental kidnapping.
Whoa.
I had the FBI show up to my door as I was breastfeeding my daughter. Both of my daughters were in school already. I had put them in school and everything.
Yeah.
And when the FBI showed up and I showed them, they didn't know why they were even there. They just said that, well, we got a tip that, you kidnapped your kids and da 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 da. And I'm like, that's insane because their dad talks to them every day. I made sure every single day they called their father. But I just wasn't okay with sending them back to him when I knew what he was going to do.
Right.
So basically, they did not arrest me. They were given the order to, but they didn't arrest me because they understood why I did what I did. And they told me that I just needed to go to the courts, file papers in courts or whatever. My daughters wound up getting back to Michigan. My ex-husband took them right back to the environment where their uncle was, as they told the police that they would. I don't know how many police reports I made, but they did not take me seriously. In fact, from the police reports that I read, they said that I was just acting like a bitter baby mama kind of thing.
Wow.
And this is a whole racist town.
Yeah.
That's the sad part, is it's a racist town.
Yeah.
So for me being a black mother, and when you have this person who is definitely not black, and they're telling the police,
what's your ex-husband's race? He's white?
He's white and Hispanic.
Wow. Okay. So of course they're gonna choose this side.
Exactly.
I know for my personal experience, courts do not want black mothers raising children.
No.
Yeah.
That's how the whole CPS system was built.
Was taking black mothers,
taking kids away from black women. Yeah.
Yeah.
And they just pretty much listened to him, what he had to say. And ever since then, I've just been going through hell. I had a felony warrant over my head for 2018, 19, 20, for 4 years. Wow. I couldn't get a job. I had to make sure I followed the law to the T. Everything, because I had a felony warrant.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I had to wait until I could get money to get a lawyer because, truth be told, he had a family that was willing to shove out money like it was nothing. I don't have that.
Right.
You know what I mean? So that's pretty much how that happened.
Okay. And that could be very frustrating. And I just want to say thank you so much for sharing that really quick. We're going to get into some more questions, but we're running out of time. So we're going to have to start it and stop it again. Or stop it, start it again. But I just want to say this. A lot of people are going to be so quick, Danielle, to say, oh, that's what you get for being with a man that's not Black. But let me just say this really quick for people who are listening and watching. Black men do this shit too. And it don't matter what race you are, people are gonna do it. You understand what I'm saying? So I just want you to know, first and foremost, that it has nothing to do with his race. People are just nasty in general. And when it comes to well, I'm saying, like, it has nothing to do with him being the way he, like, if he was Black, he would probably still be doing the same thing, is what I'm saying. So don't feel bad about his race, is what I'm saying. If anybody try to make you feel bad, don't let that get to you. But understand that because of his race, he is going to have more power when it comes to this situation, because people are so much more inclined to listen to a lighter skinned person than anybody. So
I know.
It's very weird. It seems like they always tell the truth for some reason because they're fair skinned. But I hear you, and we're gonna go ahead and cut it, and we're gonna come back to this because I have some more questions. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So let me stop these.
Don't be nervous.
The time is running out. So
spirit.
Do I leave out the room?
No, I'm just gonna.
Okay.
I'm gonna end it, and I'm gonna, I guess, send it back to you because it's about to stop us in 2 minutes. So don't even worry.
Okay. So just exit out.